to the Legal Edge Coaching Podcast. This is your host, Trevor White.
And your host, Shane Smith.
Welcome to today's show. Today's topic is going to be core four. Core four. And I'm not just talking about having a shredded core, although I think that is a requirement in order to be abundant. You must have a six-pack. So if you don't have a six-pack, just turn the show off right now. We're not talking to you. Just kidding.
I was going to say, that'd be the stats on a six-pack are actually less than your stats on being a millionaire.
Dude, isn't that wild? I know I was seeing this thing. It was like, I can't remember the numbers, so I'm not even going to try and throw them out. But it was ridiculous. It was like, to have a six-pack is an anomaly. Which, dude, this is one of the reasons I love having a six-pack. I'm going to go ahead and tout my own horn.
I was going to say, I think most of the people on the podcast probably are not 25 years old listening. So, I had a story that it was almost impossible. I remember, now that we're on the topic of six-packs, I go to Dragon Con every year. And the first year we went, me and my wife and a couple, we dressed up as what we thought were the Spartans from the Spartan 300. We were like city Spartans and we didn't know. And I lost like 30 pounds that year. So, to me, I was in fabulous shape.
Yeah. And
then I show up and then I saw the real 300 Spartan group, which was a real group at Dragon Con who had real abs all the way. So if you'd ever seen that movie, The Fat Spartans, it's a comedy show about the 300 Spartans in the real show. And that's how I felt that whole day. And I was like, well, damn, if I'm going to hang out with these guys, I got to up my game because I believe in legit six packs as opposed to fake six packs.
You were like the chubby Spartan.
Yeah, it was. Chubby at like 145 pounds, Trevor. So, I mean,
you know what's so rough about that, bro? And there is a standard in body. There's a standard in business. There's a standard in your relationships with there is a standard. And so even though you had made good progress, you still were not at that standard. And that's a hard fact to sometimes face.
Oh yeah. Well, there's nothing like pictures side by side to show you the standard and that you missed it, is what I would say.
Yeah, I know. Well, and dude, we're a bunch of liars anyways, because I remember I remember thinking I was a sexy beast, and then I saw pictures of us at a family reunion, and we were out at Lake Powell on a houseboat the whole time, and I saw pictures of it afterwards, and I was looking at some of these photos, and I was like, and I was pissed. I was pissed at me, and then I remember looking at my wife, I'm all, babe, how the hell did you let me get fat?
Yeah.
What the hell? I've never been overweight like that in my mind, right? So it wasn't actually true, but yeah. So believe it or not, guys, talking about six packs and bodies actually is super relevant to today's conversation because we'll just start with body, right? Because this is a business show. Obviously, we talk about all sorts of business constantly inside of the legal field and legal profession. Obviously, that's our game. That's what we're here for. But this element of core four, we have to identify that you are more than just a one or two dimensional human being, right? And to keep it as vulgar as I possibly can with not getting us explicit, you're more than a one or two dimensional douchebag, right? That's it. And I think that's the best way of saying it, just because it really becomes that way, right? It's like the guy who's shredded. So for example, right? So you see these 300, you're like, become the 300. If that were the only thing you were doing, right? Yeah. And you got a shitty home life. You're broke as hell. You have no money, no business, no firm. You have no connection to purpose and why you're even on this planet. But man, you got a six-pack. I don't know that I would measure that as a level of success.
I think that's the douchebag on the beach, right? Or the guy everybody looks at and says, man, that guy's a jerk. And
he's the tool.
Yeah, everybody hates him, right? Nobody likes him.
Yeah, he walks around flexing all the time. Yeah, that's 100% that guy.
Yeah, I mean, so there is a standard, but like you say, you can't be everything is important, right? Mm-hmm. And it's so hard to have a standard in every dimension and try to improve every dimension, because sometimes you've got blinders on, like you did with thinking I'm sexy beast, and then other times you're like, how do I even measure this? Yeah. Or sometimes we ignore the things we're not good at, right? I mean, like for a long time, being was probably my weakest area. And I tried to sort of ignore it, right? Or try to find ways to even pretend like I was working on it. And we, I focused in on business and body in the very beginning for me, and both did great. But then you realize, well, shit, what about my wife and my kids?
Yeah. Well, the reality is, in the legal profession, what's the number one domain?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I would say it's being with a sense of purpose, right? Because without that, you're not going to grow it. You're not going to
That's
grow.
what we want it to be, but what's in reality? Tactically, what's actually happening now?
It's business, right? You got to have business, and you got to have business, and you got to have new clients. You got to have money. You know, you got to make it all work. So you're right, because all of us know that the person who on paper seems like they've got that sense of purpose, they just like, when they say they just like to help people, and it sometimes is a cop out for growth, right? Because it really means I don't want to put in the effort to learn how to grow the firm, to manage the firm, and to do all these things. I'm just going to stay real small and help whoever comes at my door.
Well, here's the reality. If let's just say it's this way, if it's all about purpose, right? We're like, oh, I want to do this for purpose, because let's get to the brass tacks here, because it's bullshit. Purpose is not why most people became an attorney. There might be a not 1% that did that, and here's how I know that. If attorneys made $32,000 a year, that's all they made. They made 32 grand a year. I'll bet you 99.99999% of the people who are attorneys would not be attorneys.
But none of mine would. Yeah, I can tell you that.
And there's none of them that would, bro. You're not going to take a high school teacher's salary and do the kind of shit that you do as an attorney. So there's money in there. So that is now, is there purpose? For sure. But if it were just about purpose, we would go all help rescue kittens and puppies and help people that but we can't, right? Because we know we have to fund it. So yes, purpose is involved, I agree, but there's a carnal nature, right? And this is the problem. This is like good and also the problem. This is where we become the one-dimensional person. Right? This is where we don't realize that every other dimension of our life actually matters, because we will focus on the one thing, thinking that if I get this, then everything else will work. It's just going to somehow cascade. It's like magic, right? I'll have pixie dust because when I become rich,
you're right. And everything does matter, because if you only focus on the business part and tactically and making money, but don't work on the balance quadrant or your spouse and kids, then you become an ATM machine, right? So you're successful in the sense that you got more money, but then you end up losing your wife and kids.
Yep, 100%. So I had a client years and years and years ago, and he got into ultra running. And the only reason he got into ultra running is because he was actually running away. But he didn't actually run away. He just got into running. So he was his business was failing miserably. Like he was struggling like crazy. And he just kept making stupid decisions because he was in such scarcity. In the market turn, this was back in 2008, 9, somewhere around there, right? So right, if all you guys remember, that's when the market crashed and all that.
And everything crashed. That's when I started my firm.
Yeah, there you go. That's the perfect time to start it. Why not start it in chaos? That makes sense.
It was about a year in, so yeah.
So that was rough, right? And everybody understands that, and he's going through it. But instead of him actually addressing and trying to fix the problem that was at hand, he ignored his wife, he ignored his children. He ignored his business and he ran. And his justification was, I'm going to get fit. I'm going to get fit. You know, it's productive. This is a productive way. And what started out as a 3-mile run turned into a 10-mile run, turned into a 26.2, then turned into 50 miles and 100 miles and 200 miles. Lost his wife, lost his business, had nothing. Super shredded though. Love the guy. Hung out with him many times outside, just socially, just a cool guy. Sit and talk with him. He grew these long ass dreadlocks. He was just a cool dude. But he turned into this cliche. He went from a multimillionaire with a beautiful family, 5 kids. He didn't have like 1 kid. He had 5 kids, 5 children, 4 of his own, 1 adopted. His wife leaves him. The kids never see him, never want anything to do with him. We fast forward to today. Dude's still shredded, still got a 6-pack, still looks great. And now he's 50 some odd years old, 51, 52, somewhere in his early 50s, and he has nothing except a 6-pack. And it was this derailment into realizing you can't. He took all his energy because he was in chaos, and he focused on one thing. That's the body. But this will happen inside a business. This happened to me inside a business. I focused everything on business, everything, thinking the stupid story. My narrative was, hey, guess what? Soon as I make enough money, which is a total bullshit lie, because there was never going to be enough.
It was never enough.
It didn't matter how much I made. There was still more. It's just like this loop. Everybody thinks somehow you make if I just made $200K a year, if I just made $500,000 a year, if I just made $1 million a year, then never comes.
Yeah, then I can take a vacation. Then I can do this. Then I can do that. And you never get there.
No, it just never comes. It's the weirdest thing ever. And I lived through that. And then I had to watch as my entire world imploded across the board. And finally, the business imploded, right? Because I lost everything. I lost the wife. I lost my children. I lost everything. I had no sense of purpose. I didn't know who the hell I was. I was the arrogant douchebag tool. My body was a shit show. Wasn't taking care of it all because money had become the focus. And so then it's like, well, is that success? Because we think we're going to arrive at these levels and we're going to have success there. So, but it's the rub, right? You can't also then say, well, then making money's a problem. Well, I shouldn't go make money because that would, you could say that's the issue. I'm just going to go be a devoted husband. I'm going to be the husband who just loves his wife, and we're going to go on 17 date nights a week. Literally, we're going on 3 dates a week or 3 dates a day. I'm going to just pour into her. I'm going to write her a love poem every single day, and I'm just going to be Mr. Casanova. Here we go. I'm Fabio. I'm the guy just hooking this my wife up, but I never actually build anything. Don't build any money. I don't do anything else. I don't take care of my body, and I don't take care of. I'm just focused on. But I'm the husband of the year. I'd get a trophy if they had those. I mean, there'd be praises. All the other dads and all the other wives are looking at me as the dad, and they're like, man, I wish my husband would be more like you. You're just the greatest, and you're broke as shit, and your world's falling apart, and you're unhealthy, and you're unhappy because you're out of purpose, and you basically just sedated by going into that one domain. Right. And this, like, I can continue these examples across the board, man. How is with you? Because like you and your wife have always had a good relationship.
Yeah.
Like, and I would say in most times it's been pretty damn great, right? It's not even like it's been good. It's been pretty great. But how has that played into your firm? I mean, she worked with you. She's there, part of it. But like talking about this balance side where you have to manage all of you. You can't just focus on the firm. And you've had exponential growth in the firm. So it's not like you're sitting there and like it didn't work, but that has not been your primary focus at all.
No, so I mean, we've had obviously huge growth of the firm, and my wife in the beginning worked, I mean, almost full time. She worked her job and another job in my firm.
Yeah.
And even today, she still works part time in there, signing the checks and stuff, right, and watching the money, making sure there's no issues. But then also we've had tremendous growth over the years, and I look at these stepping stones, each sort of big change, right? Like we started just trying to communicate a little bit more and become more playful, is what I'll say. Years ago, right? I had this idea that, hey, I was gonna just give her a card and say, let's do something playful and whatever. And I didn't realize women like to laugh, right? They didn't like to play. I mean, what the hell, I don't know how that was a big secret, but I didn't know it because I didn't do that. So I started doing more of that. And then one of my coaches and mentors was talking about in the balance area. He says, you ought to write a one-way communication to your spouse and to your kids. And I thought, well, all right. And I tried around a bunch of things and finally figured out she likes a note card. So I write her like a little note card, 3x5 card almost every day, right? Sometimes it's probably triple spaced on there, but she really enjoys them. And I said something one time like, this seems silly. Do you want me to keep doing it? She's like, heck yeah. And then she showed me a stack of them, that she's had over the years. I mean, just stacks. And she goes, I think I need to throw away some of these, but I hate to throw any of them away, but in, date nights and talking and not taking each other for granted, I think, is a huge thing.
How did you do that though while growing the firm? Because that's great. Like what you're talking about, and I know you've done that, and it's awesome. That's why you guys have the relationship you do. But dude, running a small firm is stressful.
Yeah.
And then add growth to it.
It is, and I'm trying to think. The cards and stuff. I started doing that in the morning. It took like 15 minutes. Right. And sometimes it took even less because you could plan stuff out in advance. You could be like, hey, today I'm going to talk about this. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about this to my wife. Right. So you just, boom, 5-10 minutes in the morning before work. For me, that was the best time. Right. Before I got to work, I would do that and send the text to the boys just as a little thing. And, vacations was tough. Right. Figuring those in because there's always something that comes up. Right. And I don't even mean big vacations. I just mean like going a night on the town. Or go to a concert or something, right? And I'm the kind of person where usually the day before I'm like, well, shit, I got a lot of stuff to do. Maybe we ought to cancel that or postpone it. So for me, tactically, I just had to pay for everything in advance. That's how I do stuff. Yeah. If it's booked and I paid for it, I can't get my money back. I might as well go.
Right. You force yourself into it. The loss of the money is, But you had to make a conscious choice into it, right? It wasn't
Yeah.
like this just happened magically.
No, it didn't. And I struggle with all these stories too, right? Like on the relationship with my wife. Like I was at a business conference and I was talking to this person, and you know how you go to these conferences and after the conference, everybody has drinks and just hangs out and chats. And I looked up and two things happened. One, I realized I'd talked to a person for 3 hours, just one person for 3 hours, probably had a couple drinks. And I was like, when was the last time I talked to my wife for 3 hours? And that was huge to me. And it was nothing inappropriate, you know, it was just talking business and stuff, you know, but a real conversation. And I was like, shit, when was the last time we did that? Where we weren't checking our phones, we weren't watching a TV show, we didn't have a kid on each arm kind of deal. And I was like, it's been a long ass time. And that cued me, okay, I need to make a conscious decision to do this, right? And I had that. And then I also used to be the cheapskate where, you know, I always wanted the cheapest hotel for me and my wife and the cheapest restaurant we were going to. And I realized when I went to business conferences again, I always stayed at the hotel where the conference was. And if they went out to eat somewhere, I just went out to eat, no matter whether it was a $20 steak or whether it was a $100 steak out there. And I was like, well, how does my wife, who I love, deserve less than that?
Yeah.
You know, and then I started working on reframing that. I was like, shit, I'm not going to do this with other people and not do it with her.
Yeah.
Who's supposed to be the most important person in your life, right? So
well, that's what we say. That's what we all say. But unfortunately, we look at most people's actions and they don't line up.
Yeah.
They don't line up to it because they line up. Tell me your priorities. Show me your calendar.
And that's what I figured out. I'm looking at this. I'm going like, this is terrible. You know, this is really bad. And nobody ever talks about it, but I can only imagine if I had a conversation with those facts to her, she'd feel terrible.
Yeah.
She'd be like, what do you mean? We stay in the $100 a night place and you go to the conference, you stay at the $300 a night place? Or afterwards, y'all sit and chat for 3 hours, but you don't chat with me for 3 hours. Yeah. And you go to the $100 steak dinner and you take me to Outback, you know, for $20. There's nothing wrong with that. I actually got, you know, my wedding reception was at Outback, but there is a difference in what happens, you know, in how you feel when you go to a $100 steak joint or $50 steak joint versus the Longhorn down the street, right?
Well, and I think what you're pointing out, bro, is it just takes a conscious effort and it takes little actions. Like the little actions are showing up. And how has that helped you make more money? Having the relationship you have and doing these deposits, how has that actually helped the firm grow?
Well, one, I mean, when you're at work, you can concentrate on work, right? I mean, that sounds silly, but I don't worry about chaos at home, right? I can be at work. And also, though, if I have to work late or something happens, my wife doesn't wonder, you know, she's got no ideas of, you know, is he staying late to work with the secretary or is he slipping off to go do something else? Not even with a woman, but, you know, is he going to go play golf with the guys just to get away from me? You know, kind of none of that garbage. So I don't have to worry about my relationship or the stability from my wife. It's just there and I know it. But also because we're so secure, I can take other risks at work because I know if I do 10 grand on an ad campaign and it doesn't work, she's not going to call me an idiot and hate me and accuse me of stealing from the family kind of deal. And, you know, any of that, which that certainty, and she's bought into my dreams too, is what I would say. Right. Yeah. So because we connect so well, she's bought into them. So therefore she supports me. I mean, you know, we have an issue at work, she'll roll up and go, you know, I mean, there's been weekends where we've had to work all weekend because some crisis came up. Not as often now, but still it happens sometimes. And when it does, we roll out and go because we're together in the sense of purposes there. But also the work with her bleeds over into the work with the kids, which helps them grow, which, like I say, reduces chaos, right? Reduces chaos and emotions. When you're at work, you can concentrate on that. And we've all had employees where they were great, and then they went through a divorce, and some of them became a terrible employee. Or you know, they're going through a bankruptcy or some other personal crisis, and then their quality at work suffers. Well, I don't have any of that because my home life is rock solid, you know?
There was an adage back in the day when I first started, and I remember reading it, I don't remember where it was, but it was basically when someone goes through some something like that, a divorce or some traumatic thing at home, you basically lose them for about 6 months.
Yeah.
You had about 6 months where you completely lost them. So that's if it's like this traumatic thing. But imagine the day-to-day things, right? So anyone who thinks that they can be in turmoil at home, fights, disconnected, angry, all of that, and that not affect your ability to come in and assign new clients, and not affect your ability to get in and litigate properly, to be able to stand in a courtroom in power, right? All of it's interconnected. It's like it's with the 4 domains. I mean, it's the craziest thing ever because all 4 of these domains, all 4 of them are equally important. There is not one that supersedes the other. That doesn't mean you always devote the same amount of time to each one, right? Because time is this is a man-made kind of construct. That's not relevant. But what's your intent with the focus of the time does matter, right? My uncle, he's 100. He actually turned 100 this year, so
Wow.
it's crazy, and he's
It's
still
awesome.
like totally cognitive, totally all there, like just a great man. But he had 12 kids, 12 children. And I feel bad because they had 11 girls and 1 boy. So, 1 boy in that environment, I'm all, bro, that's brutal.
Yeah.
But anyhow, here's the coolest thing I've learned about him. If you were to ask, and all his children now are like in their 60s and 70s, but if you were to ask any of the children, any one of them, any one of the 12, who their favorite child was, guess what they would all say?
With them?
Them.
Yeah, which
And
is
they're
wild.
not making it up. They genuinely believe. And here's the crazy part about it. My uncle was not some guy who just had 12 kids and was like home all the time and was like a stay-at-home dad. He is an open heart surgeon. He was an open heart surgeon. So yeah, he went to a shit ton of school. Yeah, he worked a lot and he was gone a lot. But when he was home, he had this pattern and thing he would do. His intent focus with each child was this intensity of connection to them that they all knew he saw them and were with them. So it wasn't about time. Because if you've got 12 children, you're running a successful, like you're a successful heart surgeon, open heart surgeon. I mean, he's in medical journals, he's in the innovative stuff. Like he's like kind of like a big deal, I guess, in the heart world. So he's done also, he's very busy, got all these things going on. So he doesn't have the time. There's only 24 hours in a day, just like for me, just like for you, just like for everybody. 24 hours in a day. But he had the ability to get each one of his children to believe they were the favorite because he had the intensity and focus. But then that's what allowed him to then go and do and innovate the way he did and to come up with new techniques that are being used today in open heart surgery because he had the ability to do just what you're talking about. And it's this separation because he knew he was taking care of there. Right? It's like you could be a great husband, you could be a great father, you could have a great business, and you could be 150 pounds overweight and die when you're 62 years old because you ate and drank yourself to death. So good job experiencing this life with this vehicle that God gave us. It said, hey, here you go, here's his body that you didn't take care of. And so even if you don't die at 62, you're so disease-ridden, popping 367 pills just to all the medication that you're on because you feel like shit and you have no energy. And when we talk about trying to have sex, I'm telling you right now, having sex when you're overweight is harder than having sex when you're thin.
And probably not as fun
Yes,
either.
it is. And it's just the nature of what it is. Like, and so we look at this and all this. So like, as we kind of like bring this kind of core 4 concept to a close today, the main thing I want you to get away from today's show is realizing you are more than just a 1 or 2 dimensional person. And in order for you to make more money, because that's what motivates all of us, money, you must have a house of order. And a house of order means all 4 domains are completely, they're covered. You're actually investing in them little by little every single day. And to not do that would be like, it'd be like, let's just take it as a relationship at home. We think we can neglect it. I want you to imagine all 4 of the core 4, body, being, balance, and business, they're a little half gallon of milk. And you put a half gallon of milk in the fridge and you leave them there, but you just don't really pay attention to the family portion of it. It's just like whatever, just kind of sitting there. And I want you to imagine it's a gallon or a half gallon of milk sitting in the fridge. You just don't pay attention to it. It just kind of sits there. You do shit with it. You're messing with the body one. You're drinking that. You're putting that in your cereal. You're using that to bake some cookies. You're doing all this with these other 3. Let's say you're doing the other 3, but you got one of them sitting over there. And you just don't do anything with it until one day you realize, oh shit, there's a chasm between me and my spouse. Why? Because I've been a disconnected douche for 5 years. I've grown the firm. I've made the relationships. I've done all this. I did this for us. And then you go over and you just kind of shake the little half gallon of milk and you notice it's all separated and looking all nasty, and there's like this yellow shit on the top, and you're like, what the fuck? And you're just like suctioned in. You're like, I don't know if I dare open that. Oh shit. You know what's going to be easier than trying to open that? I'll just throw it away. So divorce, that's the way. Yeah, that's the answer. Because yeah, now I'm going to give 50% of everything that I built away anyway. So there you go. And then you get to start back over almost like you got half a leg now. So you're going to try to have to rebuild it all again with another woman. But guess what? You're still the douchebag who doesn't know how to take care of a family and be the one who can connect. So you grow and you build the firm, and that half a gallon of milk, it's a brand new, maybe even a younger gallon of milk. It's sitting in the side of the fridge. And guess what? Same thing happens. 5 years later, you look at that and you're like, oh shit, it's all separated, but maybe I could try to fix this one. So you grab the milk out, you take the lid off. Holy shit, it's sour as hell. Your whole kitchen starts to stink, meaning your whole world starts to stink because you finally were willing to look at the problem that you created. Had you just taken care of it every single day, just a little bit, every day, you'd taken it out, you'd used a little on your cereal, you'd invested inside this milk would have never gone sour. Because you would have replaced the milk with the new milk, and it would just continue to be this game with you inside. But like, this is how it is. I don't care if it's your body, your being, your balance, or your business. You cannot sit on a stool designed for 4 legs and only have 3 legs. It will not work. We weren't built to be done that way. So in order for you to make more money inside of your firm, in order for you to grow and expand, in order for you to break threshold, all 4 domains are equally important and must be equally invested inside of. So take a look at your world right now. Take a look at your world across body, being, balance, and business. Around the core 4. Where are you obviously neglecting? There's an area, and I guarantee it won't take you long to figure it out. You probably already know it. It's your half a gallon of milk. It's sitting in the corner, and you got a decision to make. Are you going to let it sit there in the back of the corner and turn into a fermented, disgusting, terrible mess that the only thing to do is to throw that shit away? Or what can you do about it today? What's one simple action? If it's in your body, you've let your body go, what's one thing you can do today? If it's in your marriage, what's one thing you can do? Take a page out of Shane's book, right? Write a Post-it note to your spouse. Just do it. You've never done anything like that. Just do it. Yeah, Valentine's Day's over. You know, what, you're going to invest in them 1 day a year? That's why I call Valentine's Day, it's douchebag day. That's the 1 day a year that all the douchebags actually invest in their relationships. All the rest of them, you know, we do it every day. So what's the one thing there? Maybe it's inside of your purpose, your connection to God. Maybe it's your spirituality, right? Literally look at that. You have no connection to God. When I say God, you're like, what are you talking about? I don't believe in God. Okay, cool. Maybe that's an area you should probably take a look at, because you're not just a physical being, you're a being with a soul. And that soul matters. That soul actually is the only thing that matters. And shoot, maybe some of you guys listening right now, it's your business. Maybe you've neglected the business. And you're believing bullshit about your business. You're believing things about your business that just flat out aren't true. And because you're believing those things, you're unwilling to take a risk. You're unwilling to take the step forward. You're unwilling to hire the person, to start the marketing campaign, to send the emails, to pick up the phone and make the phone call to that relationship that would actually change everything for you. But you won't do it. Because you're afraid, and you're believing things that just flat out aren't true, even though you have this calling inside of you calling you up for more. And that's what's happening. You're being called to more, but not just in one, in all 4. So once you've identified that domain for you, what's one thing you can do about it? One simple action. One simple action you can take today. And let's if it's the Post-it note, how hard is that? Shane, how long does it take you to write a Post-it note to your wife?
Never more than 3 or 4 minutes, right? I mean, unless it's one of those deep thoughts, but usually 3 or 4 minutes, you know. And I used to do a Post note for the boys that take like 30 seconds, a minute, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I send texts to my daughter, my son, and my wife every day. Yeah. Total time, maybe 10 minutes. Maybe.
I didn't think the Post notes mattered. I'd stick them on my kid's door because they'd be sleeping, and then one day I walk in my kid's bathroom, all over.
Yeah.
And you know that's kind of crazy. But the only PS I put on this is, you know, that one area you're ignoring, that spoiled milk, if you're not careful, it can become an anchor, right? And hold you down. And everything else will be firing, and you're like, why am I stuck here? Why can't I get to the next level here? And it's because that one's just weighing you down. Whether it's your body, your family, your sense of purpose or connection to God, or your business. One of them's going to keep you there as your anchor point.
100%. 100%. And that's something we work on heavily inside the Legal Edge Coaching. So if we can help you out with that, head over to legaledgecoaching.com, where you can kind of get some more information on what it is that we do, how we help in the small groups, masterminds, one-on-ones, our elite groups, on helping you figure out this process through the map that Shane and I have created, and that works, not just sort of, not just kind of, but it's literally the foundation that built our entire worlds. It literally built the reality we have, and not just us, but tens of thousands of other men and women who have gone down this same road that we're talking about right now. So head over to legaledgecoaching.com and get more information there. And if you got value from today's show, please share the show up, share it up. That's how we'll grow, and that's how other people who might need to hear this message will get this message. So share it up to them. And other than that, we appreciate you being on today's show, and have a fantastic rest of your day.
See you next time.